Hi, everyone. This is Dan Sixsmith. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and tell your colleagues about Sales is King.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the program. Dan Sixsmith, glad to be with you and so excited for our guest today. Seth Dallaire, the Chief Growth Officer at Walmart, is here. Seth, welcome to Sales is King.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Been looking forward to this. And let's start off. Let's just talk about, your exciting role at Walmart as Chief Growth Officer. I think it's a relatively new role. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're doing there, what the role encompasses, and some of the big challenges you're shooting at.
Okay. Well, it is a relatively new role. It's certainly a new role for me. So I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary here at Walmart on Wednesday. So
Congrats.
I've been fortunate to lead a couple different teams here for the first 3 years, and now I'm picking up some new responsibility as part of this new role. The revenue role, which I was in when I joined, that encompassed 4 different teams. So there was the retail media business, which was Walmart Connect, which is e-com monetization and store monetization for sort of non-core retail activities. Then the membership business, Walmart Plus, and a team called Data Ventures that has a subscription data product that we use with our supplier partners. And then a team that's focused on customer data and making sure that we're being good stewards of customer data as the digital business continues to grow, and that we're making sure that we're collecting that data and permissioning it in a way that is compliant. Those teams have been great. They've been fun to run and build. And we've had a really nice trajectory of growth over the past couple of years since I've been here. But they're also adjacent to other parts of the business. And the 3 teams that I've inherited as part of this new role are marketing, which is, the buy-side marketing, brand marketing, digital marketing, and consumer and B2B marketing. The interesting part about that is that those functions are largely us, buying advertising and buying marketing and putting marketing strategy together, where primarily what I was doing before was managing teams that are selling it. So now we're doing both. The similarities are really interesting there. And then there's a product organization that I've inherited as well. That product team is working across a whole bunch of different Walmart businesses, both digital and physical, and then a design function as well that helps us, make well-designed products, both physical and digital products for our businesses, and improve how we engage with our customers. So that's the new growth org, if you will, and 3 parts that I was managing, or 4 parts that I was managing before, and 3 new teams.
Wow. Super exciting. And those other, the original areas that you were managing sound like they were all the top growth businesses, right, for Walmart over the last couple of years. So obviously you've gone in, you've led some growth there as CRO, and now they're giving you more responsibility. So how do you think, what sort of skills now will you need to tap into that might be a little bit newer, taking on this monster role now?
Well, some skills I'll need to develop that are new, and then others are skills or muscles that I've developed before
at other places, sure,
that I need to just continue to keep building and growing. So certainly from a new skill perspective, understanding and having a better understanding about consumer marketing, brand marketing, as we bring the Walmart brand forward to customers is really important. It's a huge brand. And we've got great leadership from our chief marketing officer, William White. And so understanding like how we're bringing the Walmart brand to customers is really important because we serve so many of them. And I admittedly, like, that's going to be a new skill for me to develop and understand. And then certainly from a product standpoint, product management is something that I've had some experience with in other companies that I've worked at. And it really varies, certainly between the different businesses that you're working with. But organizationally here at Walmart, we have a heavily matrixed organization where any one of these functions may be interacting with different teams, like engineering functions, for instance, or business functions, and trying to manage or understand product requirements or business requirements, and then translating those into plans or blueprints for building products with engineers is definitely a skill that you have to have as a product manager, and people that live and breathe that product management function every day. That's not a world that I've been living in 24/7 since I've been here at Walmart. So I'm excited to dive in there and learn more about, how we can improve that process, how we can, build more things and ship more capability at a faster rate. But those, the things that the skills that I'll need to continue using here that I've used to be successful at Walmart so far are, really a lot of storytelling, and
I love that.
the ability to explain or remove complexity from ideas or businesses that maybe that have not historically been core to Walmart. So digital monetization or advertising business, that's a business and a function that Walmart has had, it had for years before I got here. But I think the investments really in that business have really only started in earnest in the past couple of years. And so when you look at why, they weren't investing more heavily in the space before, you might say, well, gosh, it's not core to the business. And, so like what, if it's not buying and selling product and getting it into our stores and getting it to our customers at an everyday low price, then maybe it's not something that's all that high on the priority list. And so knowing that was the case culturally when I arrived, being able to tell a story or have a narrative, it's like, look, this business, it may not feel like it's core to what you've been doing or what's made Walmart so successful the last 60 plus years. But let me tell you how I see it, because I do see it being very similar to what we've been doing in the physical store. It just happens to be in a digital context. And you might refer to this as advertising or monetization in the site, but it looks very similar to merchandising that we may be doing on the physical store shelf. And some of the tactics that we might use are the same. But so I've found that when I'm able to find those similarities, or say, remove some of the mystery of, well, it's new or we haven't done it before, and say, we haven't, but we shouldn't be afraid of it because it really is something that we've been doing. There's something we've been doing for a long time that looks similar to this, and we've been really good at it. And so we have a right to play in that space. I find that every day there's another example of an opportunity like that, or a team that I feel like, or function or like task that would benefit from, like, hey, contextualize this for me in our traditional retail world. And if you're able to do that, or when I've been able to do that, or witness other teams or peers do that, then light bulbs go off. It's like, okay, great, then let's do it. Let's try it. It
We know how to
removes
do
some
this.
of the
Yeah.
anxiety about trying something new.
Yeah, there's so many great things you said there. Gosh, you know, the story and the message, right? Simplicity, just kind of making complex things easy to understand, right? And getting more buy-in. And then taking on these new skills is such a great example for everybody, right? Because we're in this new world now, that's just exploding with change.
Mhm.
You've got to pick up some new stuff. And the good thing about it is that a lot of this is evolving, right, as
Yeah.
we're speaking. So it's not necessarily some playbook that has been written for many, many years. So I
Yeah.
love that. And we've talked to a number of leaders, and they're all about, look, I'm going to pick up some new skills. I'm going to learn as much as I can, but I'm also going to bring in people that are experts, you know, like you mentioned, the product leaders and
Yeah.
people like that. And then you start to learn from them. So I love,
Yeah.
you know, what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, there's a component of, just on that topic, selfishly for me as an executive and member of the team here, I get to learn. And that's important for me professionally, regardless
oh,
of where I've been. Like learning something or a new skill is really important. I don't want to keep doing the same thing, even if I'm getting better at it each time that I do it. It's
yeah.
just like I want to have more. I think the more exposure I have to different people, skills, functions, companies, it makes me a stronger operator. And the when you're building new teams, particularly at a large, established, and really successful business like Walmart, there is that you do have the responsibility of, let's find other subject matter experts or people that have done this before that you can bring into the company to help get a faster start, or execute more quickly. But if you only focus on that, you run the risk of bringing in people that culturally can't function in the existing and sort of historical and pervasive culture of the company that hired you in the first place. And so as a new exec coming in and being aware or learning about all of the great things that got Walmart to where it is today was critical. And so if I'm not so like presumptuous to think that like, oh, I've got it all figured out, and so just let me take over and we're going to go, like, we'll do things faster and better. Like there's a reason why Walmart is Fortune 1, and there's all sorts of different things that and practices, experiences that have brought execs here or the company to a certain place and won that position with customers that we can help them save money and live better. And if I don't take some of those things or find some of the things that have made the business successful to date and incorporate them and show that they're useful in what I'm trying to build that might be new, then I'm just not going to be successful. And so you won't be accepted as a new part of the team because you're new or you didn't grow up in this, and this business is new and it's not core to what we've been doing before. Like I can create the urgency or the understanding and acceptance of these new teams I've been tasked with building. If I can find and learn from, like, everything you're doing there, I'm going to apply to these new teams, and you're going to see it that our teams we have some reverence for that, and that we're going to be part of the team just like you. We're just growing new businesses. That then unlocks more cooperation with other leaders, and it's important, because if we just went after the talent, just bring in the people that know what they're doing. It's like, okay, you can, but the cultural aspect of how you do that work is so important here that it's not an exercise that you can just leave to functionally competent experts. Like it just won't work. You could set up the best thing and just the rest of the company is going to say, why are we doing it? So that part's important too.
It's so true. It's a delicate balance, as you say, right? You can't just come in and just start cracking eggs all over the place. There is a tradition. There's a long history of success. So how do you, as you say, build on what they've achieved and evolve versus radical you know, and then bringing in all new people that are from other cultures and just blow the place up. It's really, it's really a delicate balance. So I think you're really going about it in a very smart way. So let's talk a little bit about the brand. You know, you mentioned the brand, long history. Where are you looking to take it? What is the, you know, what is going to be the next evolution? We're starting to see it obviously unfold now with online and you know, your non-domestic business and things like that. But what is kind of the, you know, where are you going with it?
Well, I'll speak to the US parts of the business, which is what I look after. The Walmart has had a great history with US consumers and being a place where they have confidence that they can find, you know, what they want and they can get it in an everyday low price. And that's an important, you know, position for us to have from a brand position and just like how we operate and represent ourselves with consumers, but then also in the communities we serve. For instance, like we may be the largest employer in some of the communities we serve. We oftentimes are a first responder when an event happens, like in the past couple of weeks, these hurricanes. You know, we have roles where we employ, you know, a ton of associates. We have roles in the community. Then we also have a consumer facing role. You know, the Walmart brand and what Walmart stands for is many different things depending on, you know, it could be your employer, it could be a member of the community, it could be the place where you shop for your groceries. So it's I wouldn't say that there's any one thing that we're focused on. I would say from my perspective and what I'm responsible for, you know, there is an expectation from consumers that they can find whatever they want, whenever they want, and they're focused on convenience. And like if the most convenient thing for them to do is to, you know, build their basket of groceries and you know, in the app and then pick it up on their way home from work or on the way home from picking up kids from school or soccer practice or something, that's a huge point of convenience. And if we're able to meet the consumer's expectation there, we win. Like we earn more of their investment, or more of their wallet share, and that's important for us. But digitally, that they may have expectations around how they can shop there too. It's like if it's most convenient for me to open the app and have a particular item, an iPhone charger or a light bulb, you know, sent to me and sent to my house, well, then we can do that as well. But if we're only focused on one sort of narrow particular retail experience, then we run the risk of not meeting the consumer where they are, where they expect us to be. And so in my experience here in the 3 years I've been here, we've really put a lot of attention against improving the digital part of our business and the e-com business. And we've seen, you know, really strong results in terms of the overall health of that business. But then, you know, in the consumer response, in terms of people coming in and actually shopping with us that way, we've seen great growth there too, as we've reported in our earnings. And so that to me is an omni-channel retailer. It creates a unique opportunity, you know, for Walmart, just because of the size of the relationship that we have with our consumers. But then this expectation that they don't want to shop with us just one way. You know, they may want to shop with us in the store one day, they may want to shop with us in the app another day, or they may want to build a basket of goods in the app and pick it up in the store. So that's a real challenge for us, but we're having success in meeting it. But that consumer expectation that of more convenience, more everyday low pricing, better assortment, those expectations are not diminishing over time; they're only increasing. And so we have to continue to improve, continue to offer more, and that's a wonderful goal as, you know, as an executive, to come in and work at a company that's running against that pace of consumer expectation. It's a high standard.
That's amazing.
That's really where we want to go with the business, if you will.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, they expect the same top flight experience in every channel.
Yeah.
So it becomes tricky. And,
Yeah.
the great news is you have so much resources now behind you, to really invent the future. No other company probably has the kind of war chest other than maybe Apple or somebody
Well,
like that. NVIDIA, I don't even know if they even come close, but, you've got tremendous resources. I want to talk a little bit about just sellers in general today and B2B selling, because it's, I spent a lot of time in the tech space, and I've been in marketing and advertising. Sellers are under fire. They're just, well, for whatever reason in B2B, they're not hitting quotas. And, it's just been a lot tougher to connect with buyers. And I'd love to get your just, 30,000 foot level on what you're seeing in B2B selling, what's working, and what do sellers have to do to become a little more influential and move those numbers up?
um, gosh, that's a good question. So I guess I'll share an experience or a set of experiences that I've had previously that might be helpful context. Gosh, 12 years ago, when I was at Amazon for the second tour of duty, we were trying to grow an advertising business, and bringing a advertising offer from a retailer was new. This, today we talk about retail media and the advertising industry and digital media, as if, it's a hot topic, it's a high growth area. And it hasn't always been that way. Like, if I sort of go back to 2012, we're like, hey, we're trying to grow this business, we're bringing out a new product. Amazon was not a traditional publisher by advertising standards, or a portal, if you will, like a Yahoo or an MSN or a search engine like Google. Really, social was the hot thing, and so everything was talking about social media and like, where do we invest there, help us learn there. I oftentimes got the response like, hey, we don't need another advertising platform. Like, we just, really what we want is your customer file. That's, and like, well,
Yeah.
we would never do that.
Yeah.
So that would be a breach of customer trust. But we also think that if we're able to talk to customers at the time, or in a way that brands or products could, create awareness and consideration, that there were some real sort of historical marketing norms that would apply to a retail advertising business. But man, that was you get plenty of no's, plenty of not now, plenty of why would you ever do that? And so it's funny now to kind of sit back and watch, as that's like one of the growth areas of the industry, where more traditional media types like linear television or print or out of home may be seen, like those 10, 12 years ago were still gigantic, media properties and businesses. And today, maybe the retail media has more noise, like, and attention to it, because it's a hot new offer. I think as a seller, you have to figure out, like, how is it that you create this attention or urgency to get someone to say, look, I'll try it. And there's certainly a part of like, hey, is the product any good? So when you're talking about B2B selling, it's the product component's really important in terms of your talking to one product person, oftentimes to another business or service, as opposed to the consumer facing type of marketing, or selling. And it's been my experience that you have to be able to be really good at storytelling and building narratives around why the product is different, or the offer is different, or how it's differentiated in some way around capability, and not just purely around price. And like, I can only speak to my experiences in the industries that I've worked in. I'm sure in other industries, there price may be a really important component, but it's when I've sort of replayed the tape of like the most challenging sales experiences that I had, they were largely around getting someone to try something new in an industry that was new or evolving. It wasn't like we're bringing a new product forward in something that is a established industry. It's just another version of this particular product, more commoditized.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had that experience, so I can't. I think that'd be really hard for me. To be harder to find that, like, what's the differentiator if it's just price, if the capabilities are largely the same, like that commodity type of selling would be hard. I've been in my career has largely been in, hey, this thing's brand new. No one's been doing it yet, or what the people that have been doing it haven't been doing it very well. And it happens to be a high growth area where we're going to take some swings at things and fail. And we're going to learn from those experiments to build or do better things and make the product better or the selling experience better. And sometimes you have to get the buyer comfortable with that. And when you're selling to a business, like a B2B sale like that, it can be very difficult because your willingness or your risk tolerance can be pretty low depending on the industry you're in.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of the things you said carry over, right? Storytelling, narrative, creating urgency, getting people excited, differentiating. They're going to have to change from something, right? From what they're doing today, not selling on price, but selling on value, right? All of those things I think are things that a lot of B2B sellers are wrestling with today. So many good points. So let's talk about you a little bit. Love to hear your story. Let's go back to the very early days when you were a kid. What were your early dreams and ambitions? We ask this of all the guests, and we get such incredible answers. So I'd love to know, like, what you wanted to be when you were a kid.
What I wanted to be when I was a kid. Oh my gosh. Probably some like combination of like pro athlete. I loved playing soccer growing up as a little kid. I still love soccer, but I grew up. My brother and I were latchkey kids, so a lot of skateboarding growing up, and then through high school, like in college, played sports. Like I've always loved those things, but I think pretty quickly as you age through, like there's no professional career here.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, and so like many,
the dream gets crushed. It's awful.
Yeah, but I've always had a job. I guess as even like my first job was a paper route, and so like working in that way, I think it changes the ambition ideas or like things you want to be. I could in those experiences that I have had, if I sort of revisit them, I think, okay, well, how it's a paper route. A lot of kids have paper routes, whatever, but like the going through some of the experiences there and like how it has informed other things that I've done in the future, definitely would say, okay, I like that, or I don't want to do those things anymore. And those influence the ambition or what I might view of myself in a future state. But gosh, way in the way back, one time probably want to be a professional soccer player. Another time want to be a professional skateboarder. Another time might be, I certainly didn't want to be a professional newspaper route carrier for too long, but you learn a ton doing that to say, hey, maybe I want to do something else that's related to media, for instance. So
interesting.
So,
yeah. No, that's great. I mean, there's so many successful executives started out with their own business and paper route. We were just talking about Bill McDermott of ServiceNow, and he and I talked a little bit. We're both from Long Island, both had the paper route and the, just the early, just work ethic, just out there, beating the bushes. And then he worked in a deli and then he bought a deli. So then let's talk about some of the, like the first job, the first real job, what that was like, what you might've learned from that. and how it's kind of, propelled you along the way.
Well, I will say, like, revisiting the paper route stuff, at the time, this is memory lane here a bit, but we would have to buy the papers. So we had
That's right.
so you would have
It
to
was a
buy them. We
resale.
had a stack of like, my brother and I had a paper route. We probably have like 40 papers at 40 houses, and you would buy them and pay for those papers each month. And then you had to go and collect. There was no
Oh
automated
yeah, I remember.
payment from
Yeah.
people. So what we learned pretty early was that you're going to have to knock on some doors 5 times before you catch them at home to get paid, whatever it was for
Yeah.
the month for the subscription. And some people are going to pay you right away, and other people it's just going to be like, you're gonna have to chase them down. And I mean, I can't remember what movie it is with the paper route, Better Off Dead, I think it is. Like, I could totally relate to that, because there are definitely people who are like, that person hasn't, paid for my papers in a while. But what it teaches you at that age is like, you have to go ask someone for money. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like, oh, it's a fair exchange because it's newspapers and stuff, and I'm paying you, but like, you're not getting paid until after you've delivered that service and after you've delivered the papers and you've actually paid for them yourself. So the cash out, pay for it, and then the idea of net terms becomes very, as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, you understand that very quickly. I've got to pay you upfront for these papers for the month, and then I got to go and collect enough money to pay that back, and I keep whatever's on top. That for me as a kid was an important lesson, both in sort of managing, like a very crude sort of income statement, if you will, but also it takes like, people hate asking for money, and or they feel like, oh, like, gosh, I don't want to go and knock. And the worst part of any paper route was the collection. And like, I do think it teaches you to be to understand that, like, you're going to have to go, if you want to go and get that, you're going to have to go and get it. And you're going to have to figure out how to go and get it, motivate yourself to go and get it. It has for me. I can only speak for myself, but that lesson is carried through to every other sales job that I've had. And after the paper route stuff, I worked in kitchens, dishwashing, bussing tables, that type of stuff. And I always look for food service on resumes now, or when I was hiring a ton. If you've worked in a restaurant, or you've bussed tables, or you've waited tables, or you've worked as a bartender in some role where you're facing customers, they're always right. They have to be. And how you will see some crazy things where, like, I didn't like this meal, send it back. I'm like, the plate's clean. Or I didn't, like,
oh yeah,
like, you didn't make this the right way. People behave, in certain ways to service
emotional. Yeah, crazy.
And if you're able to deal with people that way and respond in a way where you keep things moving, you keep customers happy, I just think that it keeps you on your toes. All sorts of experiences are thrown at you in any one given shift that you're working, that over time, like, I would always have confidence that if someone's worked in one of those jobs, that if a customer called them or there was a problem, they would figure out, like, there's always a solution to it. They would try and find a way to solve it. But then they could also deal with the heat that might come, or like withstand some type of, hey, this is at a point in time, things are like really hot right now, and like, I'm upset for these reasons. Like, okay, let me calm you down, or I'm going to listen to you about that, and then I'm going to take it back and try and solve it. If you haven't worked in a scenario like that, or you've only been the person giving the order, paying for the service at the time, I think you miss part of that service aspect that's important as a seller. And so it maybe didn't put me into the, like, oh my gosh, I want to go. I certainly am not running a restaurant or a bar, but I do have great appreciation for people who do that work, because I know the type of stuff that they see. And I reference that stuff. I've had plenty of experiences, as I'm sure your listeners have had as well, where something goes haywire, there's a crisis that pops up as a result of the service or the product that you're selling, and
Mhm.
you have to figure out how to step up and you know solve it. So that problem solving skill from a customer service standpoint is something that was, I think, has made a big impression on me because of those early jobs.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it builds those skills very early, which is important. You know, asking for money, going door to door, dealing with not so nice people that don't want to pay you.
Yeah,
In the restaurants, dealing with thinking on your feet, right? Solving problems and
yeah,
wacky, you know. So I agree. It builds a lot of character, right? I mean, you can look back. I did the same thing. I did the bus boying and the
yeah,
waiting and
yeah.
um, you know, it could be humiliating, you know, but somehow you work through it and it builds a lot of character. And I think you're right. It turns you into a, you know, not necessarily fearless, but just you've dealt with a lot. And in today's environment, you need to be pretty flexible, right?
Yeah, I think if you're particularly when I've been in experience like entrepreneurial experiences or worked in businesses like startup-y types of things or watched friends do uh, those or start those types of businesses,
Mm-hmm.
you're very frequently any new idea is usually a no. It's rare that people come up and say, "Oh my gosh, you've solved it. That was a great, that's the right idea. We're in." Or thank God you showed up. Like we've been waiting for this solution forever. Like it's usually something new that you're doing, or
Right.
when you're trying something new, where you get it like that's never going to work. The bias is always to not take the risk because, well, if you fail, like that would be too hard to recover from that, or it would feel too awful, as opposed to focusing more on the like, well, what if we're successful?
Mm-hmm.
And so are you willing to keep hearing no? And in spite of that obstacle or people who maybe are more skeptical of what you're trying to do, you're just you're gonna take that and it's gonna motivate you, or you're gonna work it into, hey, I hear these objections all the time. Like, here's the answer for them. I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep coming at it and being persistent. That's a really important skill, particularly in my career as we've started new sales teams or um, like you have to help build a playbook or a narrative. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
sales manager, um, like sometimes the stuff that you're the way you're talking about the product the first time needs to be dramatically changed and shifted so that it becomes more, so it's more successful in terms of what you're talking about or how, how
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing the product to market. And like those, if you're it's I haven't yet to see someone come right out of the gate first time perfect, this worked. um
Oh gosh.
so
Yeah.
you need to hear that and be able to respond and not be so discouraged that you just give up, otherwise it really was a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. So then I know we're getting a little short on time. I think we're going to do this in a couple of parts, which will be great. But just in terms of like your first formal selling job,
Mm-hmm.
beyond the restaurants and the paper
Yep.
routes, tell us about that and kind of how that went and what you might have learned from that.
Yeah. Well, the first fo- like a formal sales job that I had was at Microsoft,
Mm,
and I had a very the person that was at Microsoft at the time was the sales rep that was calling on me when I was at Amazon.
mm,
And he was a great mentor of mine at Microsoft, and really was like, look, you're buying all this media now, buying all these marketing placements and advertisements now. Um, but the way you think about the business, like you would be a great seller. And you should think about coming over and working on the other side of the table, because
mm,
the way that you think about it is I think would be compelling for other people who are in your shoes thinking about, why should I do this, or
mm,
why should I buy it? And I thought really hard about taking that role because I had never sold anything, and the worst fear, a big fear of mine at the time, was like, I don't want to carry a quota, and sales to
mm,
me is like, you know, the sort of stereotypically just like makes you feel gross type of stuff. And like, I don't know that I can do it. I was really afraid that maybe if I went over and tried it, I wouldn't be good at it and that I wouldn't be successful. But I had someone else in the interview loop over there who I won't name say, it's never going to work. Like we bring these people over and they're not successful people like you because they can't do it. Well, that was a good motivator for me. So I went in and tried it. And what I found was that I really enjoyed it. I loved being able to figure out the strategy. How are we going to bring something to someone? How are we get them to buy this in a competitive field where you're competing against 3 or 4 other offers? I loved that. And that competitive part of it really was an accelerant for me. And then when you see people who are really good at it, or you have a coach or mentor, he can tell you like, hey, you can watch them or what, then it's not a transactional type of sale. This is like, I'm part of your team. You know, it's very like consultative in that stereotypical way, but like that matters. When you show up, they want to hear from you, or what you're doing is helping them grow their business. And so that was the first job that I have. And really, I've really done it since, that was 2 years ago.
Love it. All right. I think we're going to call it here for part 1. This has been amazing, Seth. We're going to get into the rest of your personal story, and we're going to talk about some of the business units you've grown in part 2 here, but I know we had kind of a limited time today. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on part 1 of Seth Dallaire, who is a very interesting person, great story, and we're really looking forward to having him back for part 2. So for now, thanks for joining us on Sales is King. Peace.